Martin Parr is a British photographer who was born on May 23, 1952, and continues his work today. He was influenced to become a photographer at an early age, as early as 14, by his grandfather George Parr, who at the time was an amateur photographer himself. His focus in his work has been to look at aspects of modern life, particularly in England, where he documented the various social classes through photography. He has said over and over that the fundamental thing he is always trying to explore is the difference between mythology of the place and the reality of it. His photographs may come across as funny and entertaining, but each one comes with a serious meaning, and it really is up to the viewer if they choose to read into it or not. It has often been said that you aren't sure whether to laugh or cry after diving into one of Parr's pieces. We're now going to take a look into his works in England, where Parr focuses on the documentation of the social class system. We'll begin by looking at his work known as The Last Resort, which documents the working class. The photos which are a part of this work were taken on the beach in Brighton, England between 1983 and 1985. It was no surprise that Parr chose to stage this project at the beach, since The Last Resort was one of his first experiments with color. He states that, "Whenever I have adopted a new technique, I usually apply it first to the beach to experiment with what's possible. And it has remained a fruitful testing ground simply because people are just lying there waiting to be photographed." He chose to put his subjects under the microscope through the use of close-up angles and exaggerated saturation. It was a new era of Parr photography, and he was surely making it noticed. Parr's goal of this project was to document the gentrification to this once natural beachside town. The photos are meant to bring attention to the irony of a crumbling concrete jungle of a seaside resort and the working class people that have no choice but to live among it. Between 1987 and 1989, Parr spent his time working on documenting his next social class, the middle class, through his work known as the cost of living. He lived in Bristol at this time and continued his work with color photography by following around the middle class and photographing their activities such as shopping, dining, and simply their daily lives. The work is a reflection on the impact of a decade of Thatcherism, in other words, a rise in the middle class. These photographs may have a similar style to those of The Last Resort, but the meaning is much different. You don't see the same concrete jungle or get that same industrial feel from the cost of living. You instead see a very manicured landscape and can almost begin to get a feeling of comfort. The Martin Parr Foundation was founded in 2014 and opened in Bristol, England in 2017. It is home to Parr's own archive and his collection of prints and books. It has a gallery which is open to the public and exhibits many of Parr's different collections. His works can also be found in the Museum of Modern Art in New York City, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, and the Irish Museum of Modern Art in Dublin.